As firefighters and paramedics, we respond to those on the worst days of their lives. And when they're at their worst, we have to be at our best.
Yeah.
And to be at our best, we have to have our house in order. I'm running for president of the IAFF because we have to be united. United for the future of this great union, for the future of our jobs, and the future of our families.
It takes a lot to do this job. Grit, sweat, sacrifice, belief in the future. And there's never been a time when firefighters have been needed more. And one firefighter has always answered the call to leadership, Mahlon Mitchell.
We have over 62,000 people here. Right now, they're trying to eliminate our voice. They're trying to desensitize us. They're trying to discredit us, and they're trying to defund us. And we cannot let that happen.
I got my dream job when I turned 19 years old, and I never looked back. Firefighting is in my blood. It's in my family's blood. My older brother's a firefighter in Atlanta. My younger brother's a firefighter in St. Paul. One of our mantras is all hands work. Everybody on the scene is doing something to stabilize it, to make the lives of our community just hopefully a little bit better for that time. The future of the IAFF is here. It's time for us to stand up, rise up, and be united. It's time for us to be strong. We can do it together, with all hands working, leaving no one behind as we do as firefighters. Never forget that together we rise.
Mahlon Mitchell for IAFF General President.
All right. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending our Districts 2, 5, and 8 Town Hall this evening. My name is Taylor Bullhagen, and I'm a staff member for Mahlon's campaign for General President, and will be serving as the MC for the call. Now, this is our second town hall of the campaign. Our first was on Monday and was tailored to locals 100 members and under in size. There were over 200 locals in attendance, and we're pleased to see that this event has a high level of participation as well. This campaign is about making sure that every local across the union has the access to their general president and a voice in their union. We're excited to have you on this call tonight and making sure you're part of the discussion. Now, a brief overview of the agenda before we get started this evening. First, you're going to be hearing from 3 different local presidents about why they are supporting Mahlon Mitchell for general president. Then we'll be going over why it's really important to register for convention, as well as providing information on how to do so. After, you will hear from Mahlon and have the chance to ask him questions directly. We will be using the raised hand feature, which I will explain later, but that will allow you to talk directly to Mahlon and not have to use the chat box, though you're welcome to use that as well. We will stay on as long as necessary to make sure that all of your questions are answered. Before we get started, we also have multiple other town halls coming up in the next week. The information about those will be posted in the chat and are on our Facebook, and will be included in a recap email that we will be sending to you after this event. The recording will also be available if you'd like to share with your members. So once again, thank you to everyone for joining this town hall. We are happy to have you here. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Adam Schrunk, President of the Lincoln Firefighters Local 644. Adam, you can take it away.
Hey, good evening, brothers and sisters. I guess greetings from the middle of flyover country here. So our discussion on endorsing Mahlon honestly took about 5 minutes. You know, I actually called Mahlon about a day or two after he'd announced about an unrelated topic. It was actually a COVID leave issue. Long story I won't get into, but following that discussion, we talked about his decision to run. And, you know, I was extremely pleased with his message, his plans, and just his passion for our union. Those things, you know, really fell directly in line with the values and priorities of our local. I won't say that the timing of our endorsement, the quick decision to make that endorsement wasn't partially due in part to the General Secretary Treasurer Kelly's direct attack on General President Shaberger. It really made a difference on some of the ways we were thinking, some of the things we were thinking about. You know, I know some of you have challenges similar to ours in your states and your locals. But for those of you who don't, maybe, you know, every day we defend the simple idea of union, you know, how they benefit working people, how they're not mafia institutions, how we're not communists. and how they're not only necessary now, but maybe more than any time in our country's history. Every year, we're trying to defend collective bargaining against elected officials who hate it. And our own GST really went about his investigation in a way that really tore apart the message that I try to get across to members of the general public, members of our own local, other elected officials. So when we discussed this, there was no defense to those actions from any of our members. Our members were all pretty bent about the way that went down. And then, Mahlon just overwhelmingly stood out as the guy we want to take the reins and help heal the fracture that we know this union has. And I think we can all see, he's fought those tough battles up there against anti-union nut jobs like Scott Walker. We have a lot of faith in him and his ability to lead our union and really look forward to him doing so.
Great. Thank you so much. Let's move on to our next speaker. This is going to be Brandon Flasner, President of Iowa City Firefighters, Local 610.
Good evening, everybody. Appreciate the introduction and the opportunity to speak to you all today and why we have chosen to endorse Mahlon Mitchell for General President of the IAFF. It really started with a simple conversation amongst ourselves as an executive board of who we feel out of all the candidates has the best path and the best message forward, with the fresh start plan that he has on his website, knowing what he's done and his history and experience in the state of Wisconsin, bringing a somewhat fractured or stressed state organization together and being under the same unity, having the experience of defending state level collective bargaining, similar to like we've had to do here in Iowa in the years past. Also defending state level retirement and disability systems, similar to like we've also had to do the last couple of years. He's really helped exemplify over the years, even before he announced his candidacy to us all across the state and especially here locally, what positive politics can do, how to work with both sides of the aisle. And it was really a clear choice for us of who we would like to see be the future of our IAFF, something we're proud to call ours and something that we want to continue to grow and be stronger. On a personal note, I grew up in the state of Wisconsin before I started my career down here in Iowa City. I have a lot of friends that are still engaged and active members across the state, IAFF members. Most of my family lives up there. And from a personal note, it's been very inspirational to watch Mahlon and his career trajectory through whether it's his campaigns. I was 19 years old in 2011, just started in the IAFF when Scott Walker began his attacks on collective bargaining in the state of Wisconsin. And being from a more conservative part of the state, union wasn't a dirty word in my household, but it wasn't celebrated either. And being able to see a strong example of what a union leader can do and why it's important, and having hundreds of thousands of people on a state capitol concerned about one issue, and seeing us as firefighters and Mahlon leading those firefighters through the charge through the capitol really inspired me to become engaged and involved in our union and really extrapolated out from there. So with that, last night, you guys are probably the first ones to hear that we as Local 610 have endorsed Mahlon for General President. We're proud to do so, and we'll continue to spread the message of his positive campaign. Thank you.
Thanks, President Flasner. Let's move on to our next speaker, Mike Bongiorno, President of Milwaukee Firefighters Local 215.
Good evening, everyone. Mike Bongiorno here. I'm stepping outside because my family's eating dinner. Get a little privacy. I'd like to share with everyone a little history about Mahlon Mitchell, Milwaukee Local 215, and the state organization, the Milwaukee Professional Firefighters of Wisconsin. And before I became president, we were out of the state organization for over 26 years. And it's probably because of the things that I don't even know and understand, and I don't care. But it was all probably based on some crap, some political stuff. People didn't get along, kind of very similar to what we're seeing right now in the IAFF. And Mahlon made it a mission to get the biggest local in the 5th district, the biggest local in his state, back in the state organization. And he did that. And we're very happy to be in. I don't know how we made it without being in. As being the president for Local 215 over the last 3 years, every time I've called on Mahlon to get me into the state capitol and talk to the politicians that we need to talk to, he's made it happen. So very pleased with all the relationships that we've been able to grow, and it's all about unity. And I think that's one of the things that Mahlon's bringing to the table. One of the very strong things that he brings is being able to unite people. And you've seen that. You've seen videos of it with him in the bullhorn at the state capitol, challenging Scott Walker. And so it was easy for our board to come to the conclusion that we needed to back Mahlon Mitchell for the general president for the IAFF, and we did that a while back, and we're proud to do that. We're super excited for him, and so yeah, that's the story with Local 215 and the many years that we were out, and we're back in. And like I said, I'll just reiterate, it's all about unity and becoming one, and that's what this IAFF needs, is someone who's going to get in and put all the politics and the crap behind us and move forward with a strong unity. So good luck, Mahlon.
Thanks so much, Mike. Now, before we hear from Mahlon, we wanted to spend a few minutes on the convention, since it's a totally new format because of COVID-19, both in terms of the convention itself, as well as voting for IAFF principal officers. Now, we'll put a memo that covers what you need to know about convention registration in the chat. Feel free to refer to it and pass it along to other locals in your state. We want every local to vote. Now, two of the most important things to know are the fee to attend the convention and have a vote drops substantially to $100 per delegate. This should make it possible for every local in the IAFF to send a delegate and make sure that you have your voice in this election. Please let us know if this fee is still a barrier for you, and we'll figure out a way to make it happen. If your local cannot afford the $100 registration fee and plan to proxy vote, you must identify a registered delegate and record your proxy vote with the IAFF by December 15th. If not, you or your delegates must register for convention by January 24th in order to vote. Let me repeat that real quick. If your local cannot afford the $100 registration fee and plan to proxy vote, you must identify a registered delegate and record your proxy vote with the IAFF by December 15th. If not, you or your delegates must register for convention by January 24th in order to vote. Now let's move on to registration and what you need to plan for in order to successfully register for the convention. First, make sure you know how many delegates your local gets. The number is based on your membership size, and you'll find a chart on our one-pager in the chat and also on the IAFF convention website, which is also listed in the one-pager. Second, consult your constitution and bylaws to determine how many delegates are selected. This is really important, and we strongly urge you to reach out to the IAFF membership department if you have any questions about how you're supposed to select your delegates. In many cases, a secret ballot election is required, so you need to make a plan to make sure that can happen as soon as possible. Third, your local must make sure to pay your per capita payments to the IAFF paid through November of this year prior to registering. You can pay any time prior to convention, but they must be paid through November. And lastly, you or your delegates need to be active members in good standing, and you need the following information in order to register successfully. One, your membership number found on your IAFF membership card, 2, your correct mailing address, correct email address, and your correct home address. PO boxes are okay if that is your home mailing address. Now, registration is actually pretty easy and can be done online at the website listed in our one-pager in the chat. And please take advantage of the IAFF membership department if you need help with the convention process. They're there to help. And if you have any questions, please reach out to us as well. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce the man of the hour, Mahlon Mitchell.
Thank you, Taylor. Can you hear me all right, Taylor? Good.
Yes, sir.
Thank you to everybody that's joining us tonight. I will tell you, I want to thank Brandon and Adam and my buddy Mike Bergiorno from Local 215 in Milwaukee. You would think that I had Brandon and Adam on to talk because their endorsement, but I actually had them on to talk about the Wisconsin Badgers football team and how we kick their ass every time we play them. They just didn't know that. But thank you all for joining me. I see we got some folks from Michigan, Ohio as well. We did beat Michigan this year, but we don't mess around with Ohio State really. So anyway, thank you all for joining me. This is our second Zoom, and we're going to be doing these district-wide Zooms. And eventually, we had as Taylor said, we had 100 local members and under Zoom earlier this week on Monday. It went well, and we had 210 plus locals on that. We're trying to reach out to as many of our members, as many of our firefighters and paramedics, dispatchers, and everyone that's in IAFF as we can, our 324,000 members. So again, thank you, and there's going to be more to come. So if you would like your members to be part of these in the future, please just hop on any Zoom. You don't have to be from the district, but thank you for joining us again. For those of you who have never met, and for those of you who are seeing me or talking to me via Zoom or via computer for the first time, my name is Mahlon Mitchell. I serve as state president of the Professional Firefighters of Wisconsin. I've been doing that since 2011. I'm also president of my local, Firefighters Local 311, right here in our capital city, Madison. I've been doing that since 2014. We're a local about a size of 500 members. 100 of those members are made up of our affiliates, which are 13 right now. And we have affiliates that are just standalone paramedic systems. We have affiliates that are firefighter only, and we have a combination of everything else in between. So we cover the full gambit of what the IAFF represents for the most part. So my team and I, my brother Ted Higgins, our secretary treasurer, my vice president Kevin Sherry, we are working on contracts all the time. Any given year, working on 14, quite frankly, different contracts. I've been a firefighter for 24 years. I still actually work on the line. I'm a lieutenant right downtown here at Station 1, where the president of our union is housed. I've been doing that for 24 years. Love the job, love the fire service. I have 2 brothers in the fire service. My younger brother is up in St. Paul, Minnesota. I see a lot of my brothers and sisters from Minnesota on these calls, so shout out to Minnesota. Also, I have my older brother is down in Atlanta, Georgia. So you could say the fire service and being in the fire department runs in our blood, and it does in my family. But that's not why we're here. We're here to talk about why am I running to be your next general president? Why am I running to work on your behalf? And I'll tell you, brothers and sisters, I love the fire service. I love this great job we have. This union has given everything to me and my family. Without this union, I am not successful as I have been. Without this union, I am not who I am right now. We are a strong, bold union made up of 323,000 members. We've organized 123,000 of those members just in the 21st century. So we are growing. You will hear some other candidates say that they believe that we need to take back our union. I don't know what take back our union means. There was a tweet that came out actually today that explained what take back our union means. I read that tweet on the plane this morning when I was coming back from California. I still don't know what the hell take back our union means, because this is our union. And this is a union that we can work on together to make bigger, better, and stronger. And in my opinion, we only do that as a united IAFF. This IAFF, we're leading the way on so many things. Cancer research, our presumptives, disaster relief funding, things that we use back home as local presidents and local officers, MFAs, GIS mapping studies, and at the federal level, the Shadroga Act, protecting our members that were on the POW, our SOP research, making sure that we're in the front lines of making sure our SOPs are for us and that they're safe. All these things that we do are safer acts, safer funding, PSOB benefits. You look at what's happened. So we have districts 2, 5, and 8 on the call right now. Within our districts, we've had 10 COVID-19 line of duty deaths, 10 within our district, the district that we're on the call right now. The IAFF got in front of that early and made sure that every one of our members, if they were to unfortunately pass of COVID-19, that it was a presumption that they get it while on the job, so that their families are taken care of, and so that they get the public safety officer's benefit. And that's because of what our union did, preemptive, getting in front of things. And that's what our union is. And that's why I'm proud to be part of our union. I believe our union is the baddest union on the planet. We have built it into a powerhouse, and we've done that together. You look at the black and gold brand that we want in that elected officials and want to be elected officials, that you want to across our two great countries that we serve. You look at the Fight Back program, and I can tell you personally, here in Wisconsin, our members that are on the line here from Wisconsin, they can tell you that we've taken a couple of L's. We've taken a lot of losses here in Wisconsin, but we dust ourselves off. We get back up, and the IAFF is there with us every step of the way with Fight Back Fund and the Fight Back program, because that's who we are. And that's what this union is about. And I'm proud to say I'm an IAFF member, still to this day. I hold my head up high to be part of this great union. But we have many challenges ahead of us, brothers and sisters. We do. And we all know that. I just talked a little bit about COVID-19. We're dealing with all across the world. We have civil unrest all across this great country that's affecting our jobs and affecting our staffing. We have our brothers and sisters dying of cancer at crazy rates every year. We have our brothers and sisters looking at taking their own lives because of the cumulative effect of what they've seen over the job. So we have many challenges ahead of us. And in my opinion, we need a leader that's going to come in front of us and take care and tackle those challenges and seize also upon the opportunities that we have for the near and distant future. I want to do that as your general president, and that's why I'm running to be your general president of our great international union. You know, when I took over as president in 2011, the Professional Firefighters of Wisconsin, and you heard Mike allude to it a little bit. We had an asshole governor. His name was Governor Scott Walker. A lot of people on this call helped out with that effort to fight back. A lot of people on this call sent us money, sent us their words. And actually, a lot of you that are on this call came up and actually marched with us. Governor Walker said when he became in office, he said, I'm going to come in and I'm going to take care of the unions because they're the problem. So he created an enemy. He said, they're the problem. And if the unions didn't have these great pensions, if all these state workers from AFSCME did not have these great pensions, then our state budget would be in order. We wouldn't have this $3.6 billion structural deficit. He said, it's all because of the unions, which we all know is not true. He said, but I'm going to take care of that. And unfortunately, in partisan politics, a division works. You create an enemy. You keep hammering that enemy, hammering that enemy. And when you do that, it works. And people start to believe like, well, yeah, maybe if these unions didn't have all this power and influence, then my life would be better. And we know that's all bullshit. But he did that. And he split, he conquered, and tried to divide our entire state. He said to his bigger donors, his biggest donor in the state, Diane Hendricks from Beloit, Wisconsin. She owns ABC Supply. Look her up. She's a multi-billionaire. He said, I'm going to come in, divide the unions. I'm going to come in after public sector first, and then later I'll come in after right to work for private sector unions. But I'm going to leave police and fire exempt. He did exactly that. But what he was not expecting was that we did what we always do as firefighters. We respond to the call. Not only did we respond and stand up, but we stood out with our flags, our bagpipes, marching every step of the way with our brothers and sisters in the House of Labor, and being there with our speeches and our support. And we did that because back then we called it the right thing to do. Nowadays they call it solidarity. And I'll tell you, brothers and sisters, and there's a lot of folks and brothers and sisters from Wisconsin that are on the call right now. We would do it all over again the same way, because we realize that this is bigger than us and it's bigger than any one of us. What a lot of people did not know is that our union, the Professional Firefighters of Wisconsin, and we're only 4,000 members, but we're 4,000 strong members. We were at a crossroads. We had a DVP at the time from the IAFF that would not talk to our state president about anything, and vice versa. Matter of fact, when I became president, we had 7 to 8 locals that said they want to pull out, that they were sick of all the crap and the infighting at the top levels. And I met with them, and they said, Mahlon, you know what? It's not about you. It's nothing against you, but we're sick of all this. We're paying money into a state association. We're paying money into the IAFF, and we're seeing no benefit from the state association. So we had to put our heads together. And for time's sake, fast forward to today, my team and I, and when I say my team, because it was not just me, there were 10 other members on this executive board that made it happen. I was fortunate enough to be elected to lead that team. We came together, put our heads together, and fast forward to today. We have every IAFF affiliate that's in the state of Wisconsin actually in our state association, except for one that we're getting in, but they just recently got affiliated with the IAFF. But we have every IAFF affiliate in our state association. You heard from President Borgiorno from Local 215. They were out 26 years prior to Governor Scott Walker and everything else. But our main mission, our main goal was saying that we got to come together because 95% of the issues we agree upon. And you know what? Elections are going to handle themselves. Endorsements are going to take care of themselves. But when we have those elected officials in office, what do? It's better for us to be together, united as one team, singing from the same sheet of music so our members get the benefit. Fast forward to today with the team again. We have a statewide conference, like many of you, educational, legislative conference, bringing all our local officers together, local leaders together. We used to have about 50 or 60 come, and we kept getting diminishing attendance. We came together as a board. We decided, how can we do this better? So we trimmed some fat at the top, and we decided that we could actually bring 2 members from every local for free to come to our educational and our legislative conference called WALTS. Kind of stole it from ALTS, but you steal things that are working. But we bring 2 members from every local of our 62 locals free to get the education they need to go back to the membership to do their jobs and make our members more safe here in our state. We did that again by trimming some of the fat at the top and raising fees of vendors. And vendors are happy to raise and be part of this because now they have 250, 260 at times members from our locals as opposed to 40 or 50. We started a charitable foundation. How I got involved in the union was actually from the charity side. I was our burn camp director for 10 years. I actually helped start our charitable foundation at our local level, which started in 1998. I was one of our first chief financial officers in Local 311. So I actually started from the charity side. I believe that every union, every local, every state association, every provincial association has to be involved in our community outside of the emergency. It's not only the right thing to do, it actually helps us when we're at the bargaining table, when they want to brown out a station, when they want to close a rig. Our members are there and our community is there to back us up. And they only got to do that if they see us outside of the emergency. So we started a charitable foundation called the Professional Firefighters Wisconsin Charitable Foundation. We started from nothing. We now have close to $1 million in assets in the bank, and we're giving the money out, and we have 2 full-time employees at our state office. I say these things not to give you a list of accomplishments, not to pat myself on the back or say, vote for me because I did this. I didn't do this by myself. I did this with a lot of the men and women that are actually on the call right now. And we did it together. And that's what we can do in the IAFF. And that's what this union to me should be about. We did something real simple. We came together, we put together a strategic plan. We started with a retreat and we looked at our SWOT-C, our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and constraints. And we reimagined our union. And we asked one simple question. What kind of union would we be if everything we did was a member-oriented decision? If every decision we made was about the members, not about internal politics, not even about external politics, not about my next election or any of the board members' next election, but what if we tried to every time do the right thing for the members? And that's how we started. I'm not saying we're perfect. I'm not saying we're better than any state association that's on this call, because we are not. And I'm not perfect, that's for sure. But us working together as firefighters, us working together as a team, that's perfect. Brothers and sisters, this is the most important election of our lifetime. We have not had a general president contested election since 1988. This election will be about our future, for not just the current months coming up or years. This will be decades in the making. So what kind of union do we want? And how do we want to see our union in the future? And that's why I'm running to be your next general president, because I want to bring this union together to unify us, to not always agree, but to know where we're going and that we're on the same page and know where we're going to get there, but we will only get there together. I believe we need a fresh start in our union. I believe that President Shateberger has done a lot for this union, a whole hell of a lot. And he should be able to retire with some dignity. I'm not running an anti-Ed Kelly campaign, but I will tell you what I've seen over the last year and a half is reckless. And I'll leave it at that. But I think we need to reimagine our union. When I say that, here are some things that I would like to see us work on, enhance, change, and reassess our efforts towards these great and very important issues. Number one, and I say this to every call that I'm on. I was on a call earlier today with Louisiana. I was on a call earlier today with, I think, another local in Missouri as well. And I say this to every call I'm on. One of my top priorities is collective bargaining. I believe most of us, or all of us on this call right now from districts 2, 5, and 8, have the ability to sit down with our employer and talk about hours, wages, working conditions. But imagine if you didn't have that. Because see, there's a lot of us and a lot of our younger members that take that for granted. There's some of our older members that take that for granted, quite frankly. Right now, we live in 2 IAFFs. We have those that have the ability to collectively bargain, and we have those that don't. And I believe in order for us to get it passed, because it came down to one vote to have our national collective bargaining bill passed. IAFF has done a lot of great work, a lot of great effort in trying to get that passed. So all public safety officers in our country will have the ability to collectively bargain. Talk about their employer about health and safety. But the one vote didn't make it. And that was in a Democratic Congress. The Democrats had the majority. So it's not about D's or R's for me. It's about doing the right thing. And I always tell our people here in Wisconsin, we don't want to see you and our elected officials. We don't want to see you at memorials. We don't need to see you at our funerals. We don't want you patting us on the back and saying we're heroes. We don't need that. What we need you to do is vote the right way when it comes to our health and safety of us, our community, and our families. So I will fight like hell to make sure that we get a national collective bargaining bill passed. And the way we do that is we work with our stakeholders. We work with those that we have had their backs for many, many years. And I'm talking about AFSCME. I'm talking about SCIU. I'm talking about the AFL-CIO. I'm talking about teachers. They need to come to the table for us now. We have had their backs for many years. We did it here in Wisconsin. AFSCME in the state of Wisconsin had 63,000 plus members before Act 10, which is the collective bargaining changes. 63,000 members. They are now around 15 to 10,000 members statewide because of what Scott Walker did to them. But we were there every step of the way, and we were not effective. We need to call on AFSCME to come now. You come help us. Right now, there's two bargaining bills in Congress. One that AFSCME has, one that we have as the IAFF. We need to conjoin those bills, make them companion bills, and make sure that they are behind us. So we're going to take the lead in collective bargaining changes. And we need to change the vernacular, change the subject. And all of us who are on this line that have collective bargaining, we need to be the ones leading that charge. Because instead of us waiting back and sitting back, like sometimes we had to do in Wisconsin, like when are we next? Like when is it going to fall now where he just signs literally with a swoop of the pen and now we're next? We need to be the ones leading the charge for our brothers and sisters in the South and across this country that do not have collective bargaining. I will make that happen as your general president. And that will change the conversation to not know when are they going to take collective bargaining away from us, but no, when are we going to have collective bargaining for everyone that does the same job that we do across this great country? That's what I will commit to you. I already have a relationship with Vice President Joe Biden and President-elect Joe Biden. Kamala Harris endorsed my campaign when I ran for governor in 2018. I've known her since she was Attorney General in California. And I'm not saying that to name drop. I'm not saying that to, well, look at me. I'm saying that because the next general president needs to have a relationship with the incoming administration. A lot of folks will say, I'll start from day one. Well, you know what? I've already started. So this is what we need to do in order to get things done. Cancer prevention. We have brothers and sisters that are losing their lives because of cancer. We all know that. It's not just happening in little old here, Wisconsin. I had a brother I actually just talked to today. We've had a string of events here in Madison that has really touched my heart, quite frankly. I'm not a sensitive guy necessarily, but the last just probably 6 months, a year, we've had 2 members that have contracted cancers that I've never even heard of. One young lady who has less than 5 years on the job. She had to have an operation that basically gave her 20% chance of living. She's a fighter. She's doing great right now. She wants to come back to the job. We have another brother who I just talked to today that has to have a laryngectomy. I'm essentially taking out his larynx. It's a cancer that 202 people, I believe, in the world get. In the United States, that get a year. He came to us and met with me and my vice president at a local tavern that we always meet at to meet with members. And he said he came in with a stoma. He said, Mahlon, they're saying I got to have this the rest of my life. So obviously I'm not coming back to the job. If that doesn't hit you here, then I don't know what we're doing as local officers and as state and provincial officers and what we're doing as a top in the IAFF. The IAFF has done a lot of great work when it comes to cancer and when it comes to prevention. The cancer registry is a great first step for big data for the future. It's a great first step for where we need to be to make sure our people that come behind us and how we're contracting these cancers and how we can prevent these cancers. It's a great first step. It's huge. We lobbied on it for many years in IAFF. With all our efforts, we got it done. But I would take the next step. And I want to make sure, like we look at NFPA 1710, when it came to 3, 4, 5, or 6 on the rig, when it came to low, medium, to high hazards, the IAFF were the catalyst in raising those consensus standards in Anaheim, California, making sure shareholders and the stakeholders actually were like, no, we want more stringent consensus standards. Now we know we all don't live up to them, but it's something we have to strive to be. Our response times, but more importantly, what makes us safe as members in the IAFF and our fire departments, and what makes the community safe, because we're safe first. The IAFF, I'm going to have the same tenacity that we had at NFPA 1710. I'm going to bring that same knowledge that I have here back in my local and the state. And I know that these are cases that we're having all across this great country. So that's what we're going to work on. Speaking of working on the Center of Excellence. The Center of Excellence is a great resource on the East Coast. It's a great resource for our members. We've had 8 members from just Wisconsin and probably more go out there. And they've said not only was it great, but it saved their life, not changed their life. It saved their life. I would make sure that everyone right now that needs to get to the Center of Excellence, I don't care if you're in Canada, I don't care if you're in California, I don't care if you're in Hawaii, the IAFF are going to cover your traveling expenses to get to the Center of Excellence right now on the East Coast. And we're going to streamline that process and use every dollar, every resource we can to make and open up more resources to make sure that every member gets to that Center of Excellence that needs it so we get to them before it's too late. I'm also going to work with what's already in place with the district vice presidents to make sure we get the Center of Excellence opened up in Riverside, California, Riverside County, as well as the one up in Canada. Those are things that have to happen. I know there's a resolution coming before the IAFF to have one in the Midwest. I will make that happen. If we're up to me, we would have one in every state. Now, obviously, that's not feasible. But I'm going to make sure that our members have the opportunity to go to Center of Excellence. And we're going to open as many as we can humanly possible and that we can afford. And where we can cut the fat at the top to make sure we can afford more, to make sure our members are safe from taking their own lives. I'm also going to work for legislation that requires municipalities, that requires states and provinces to actually pay for the help and the mental health treatment that our members need, not just for PTSI or PTSD, because a lot of our members, as we know, are suffering from more than that. Alcoholism, depression, anxiety, because of what we see on our job. We can do that, but we do that together again. I'm going to also explore a low-cost healthcare plan. There are smaller international unions than ours that have a healthcare plan where their current and retired members can be a part of. I will make sure that we seriously explore that, working with our district vice presidents, our top level staff to get that done. That's going to be very convoluted. It's going to be hard, but we can do it. I will also make sure that we get the bill passed that's in the Senate floor right now that will give the ability for public safety officers to actually buy into Medicare at age 55 for those that have no access to any retiree health care. My local, we have a RHS plan to offset some of that cost, but we don't have true retiree health care. And I was gonna say his name's Senator Sherrod Brown, but I see Mike Taylor on it, and I always screw up that name, so I hope I said it right. Is that Sherrod, Mike? Sherrod? Maybe he got off.
It is Sherrod.
Sherrod Brown.
Sherrod Brown. There you go.
What did I say yesterday, Sherrod?
Yes.
No, that's because I got a cousin named Sherrod in Cleveland, but he's not a senator. He's actually a drug dealer. But anyway, that's true. Sorry, they call him Candyman. But anyway, that's not part of this. But we have the ability to get a low-cost healthcare plan in the IAFF for our current and our retired members. And we should do that. And I will get that done. And we will work with our partners. And we work with, when we have the access that we have at the top level when it comes to the President of the United States, Kamala Harris, we can get that done. And I know in the future, and I'm going to wrap it up here, I promise, but when I know in the future that we have many attacks coming before us, like I said, Governor Walker created an enemy. He said the public sector employees have too great of pensions. They have too great of health care. They're doing the same thing to us. Before COVID-19, municipalities were already screaming bloody murder. Our city already wanted to do a wage reopener to take away our last raise that we bargained in good faith. They already want to do that. Then COVID-19 came and just gave an excuse to do it even further. So imagine the next couple years, bargaining is going to be hell at the bargaining table for us, the local officers. It's going to be worse than hell. And they're going to be creating an enemy. They're going to say if the firefighters didn't have these pensions, we would be able to pay for other essential services. If the firefighters didn't have this health care, we would be able to actually open that new library or actually give raises to general employees. And we know through healthcare over time, we've made it lower cost because of in lieu of wages. We know with our pensions that we've actually, again, with lower costs and giving back some of our wages to keep it where it's less than 10% that we have to pay in. But all these things we need to do, the IAFF should be the #1 leader in everything we're doing. And you have my promise. If I'm your general president, if I'm so fortunate enough to be your general president, I will get that done. So real quick, what I will do within my first 30 days, and you can go on our website, mitchellforiff.com, shameless plug, but mitchellforiff.com. I guess it's not shameless because this is our event. So go to our website. In my first 30 days, here's what I will do. I will convene a retreat just like we did here in Wisconsin. And it's not a retreat for us to sing kumbaya or hold hands and say, okay, now we're all going to get along. It's a retreat to look at accountability, transparency, and also look at some of the reforms that we need to make our union sustainable for the future. First and foremost, I'm going to look at every contract that the IAFF is currently in. And any contract that has no benefit to our members will be exhausted or terminated. I'm going to also talk to every AGP, assistant to the general president, who run the departments, as well as top-level staff. And we're going to get things streamlined that we can. As I said earlier, my local, we just sent out for a MFA today, Municipal Financial Analysis, a great tool that the IAFF provides. We give it to our police officers. I'm sure a lot of you do because their union does not provide that. Quite frankly, their union doesn't provide anything. But I'm going to make sure that we can streamline things that we can. Right now, it takes 4 to 6 weeks to get an MFA back. We can do better. And I'm not blaming the young lady right now that's taking those MFAs in. It's we need to commit more resources to those efforts. I'm going to look at the pensions that are been a point of concern for so long. There's 3 pensions right now at the IAFF, and they're not doing very well. When you got to take a loan for $2 million or so to actually fulfill that obligation, that's not a good thing. But we fix those problems together. We have a lot of smart district vice presidents. I think we got some of them on the line today, maybe. We work together. We take care of our own business. It doesn't take a lot of courage to find something, and when you've been in a job for 4 years, to find something and leak it to the New York Times or leak it to the Washington Post or all these stupid blogs that we all see. Courage matters when you actually put it in front of our executive board and say, hey, we have a problem, we need to fix it together. Let's let our members know about it and let them know what the problem is and how we're going to fix it. I will do a comprehensive audit, which is already being done for the IAFF pension systems. But I will not release those to these papers or these stupid blogs that really don't give a damn about us. I'm going to release it to the membership, release it to you as local officers and state and provincial officers, so that then we can make a proper assessment of where we are and we can put together a plan of where we're going to go. I will do the same thing by way of our budget, our $75 million budget at the IAFF. I do believe that our members should know where every penny is being spent, and you will know that. If there's a problem, we're going to fix it. That's what you elect us to do, and that's what we're going to do. I will also look at our endorsement process. You know, I don't know about District 2 or District 8. I'm sure you're probably just like us in District 5, but we have a lot of conservative members in our district and in my state. I can speak for that at least. And our members knew that we were going to endorse Joe Biden. And again, full transparency. And I've gotten a lot of calls, and I'm sure you all believe it, from my website, from some of my social media, and a lot of our members and local leaders that are asking, well, how in the hell can you support Joe Biden? Well, first thing I tell them is, well, Joe Biden won, so I think we picked the right horse. But second of all, Joe Biden's done so much for firefighters because he's actually seen tragedy. He's seen our members at work. The PSOB benefit wouldn't be high as it is without Joe Biden. I'm looking at some of our presumptives, and I don't want to speak. I know most of you already know that. But I do understand some of the trepidation. And it comes from, 4 years prior, we did not endorse anyone when it came to Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. They sent out some polls, pre and post primary, and we stayed out of it because of where our members were. But now we fast forward to now, and literally a day or two after Joe Biden announced, we endorsed him. Now, again, I agree with the endorsement, but I can understand where our members have some pushback. So here's what I will do. There's no way in hell that we're going to be able to interview all 323,000 members to ask what they think about a presidential endorsement. But what we can do is make the process more fair, more transparent. I will have a baseline poll that we give out to our district vice presidents to work with their state and local presidents and local officers to give to the membership if they would be a part of that. So then those polling results will come back to the local officers, back to the state officers, through the DVPs at the international table, and we will have a more informed decision with more information. At the end of the day, we still have to make a decision as leaders that we're elected to do. I also realize that we're not going to make every member happy, no matter who we endorse. I said the other night, we could endorse Jesus Christ himself. We would have members saying, well, I don't like religion, or I'm with Pontius Pilate, or I'm with Caesar. I get that. But at least our members will know that it's a clear and concise and transparent process. And that's what I would do. And last but not least, I want to give more power back to the members. And I believe we do that by giving more power back to the executive board, because that's their elected representatives. So one easy example is anybody that the GP or the GST hires, we will make the recommendation to the executive board. Executive board will actually vet those individuals. And after vetting those individuals, they will make the final determination, so that we don't have members, that we don't have top level staff that doesn't give a shit about us. And I believe the district vice president should have more say in who we hire at the IAFF, among other things, but that's just one example. So with all that, brothers and sisters, I know we're going to take for questions, so I'll talk about path to victory and everything else later. But I want you to join Team Mitchell. And I want you to join me and join our team in uniting to defeat what's trying to divide us. I want you to join me in taking care of our brothers and sisters that are on the street right now. And I believe that's how we honor those that have come before us. And we honor those that are going to come behind us by making this IAFF better than where it is to where we found it. I'm asking you, more importantly, though, to join me in not taking back our union, because there's nothing for us to take back. I'm asking you to join me in making our union bigger, better, and stronger. And we do that together, in my opinion, as one united IAFF. And we need a fresh start to make that happen. And I want to be that fresh start for us, but I cannot do it without your help. And we cannot do it unless we're all united. So thank you for your time. Now let's get after the questions, Taylor. I know I spoke a little long there, but I get a little fired up sometimes.
All good. Real quick, we're actually going to have a 2nd District Vice President Mark Woolbright hop in for a few quick words.
Well, that would be wonderful. Thank you, Taylor. First, I'd like to acknowledge my brothers, Adam Strunk and Brandon Flanzer, for being a part of this program tonight. And also thanks for the invite. You know, everything I'm hearing tonight from Brother Mitchell is exactly what I believe in a leader should be. I think things have been laid out very, very well. I think you've got a great plan. I'm very excited. I'm very excited to hear what you're saying. I'm very excited that you're stepping up, Brother Mitchell, to take this endeavor on. It's not easy. You're behind, as you know it. And I think probably everybody on this phone call or on the Zoom call knows that you've got a big hill to climb here. But I commend you for taking it on, because I believe it needs to be taken on. And I can tell you, you know, the battles that you fought, the politics that you've had to deal with over the years, and the whether it's collective bargaining, non-collective bargaining, you know, you have the experience. You're exactly what I believe that this international needs at the top. And I can tell you, and I would trust that we wouldn't have to go through what we just went through this past year during one of the worst times in American history with this pandemic and this presidential election that put us in a peril that we were at question. This is a proud organization, a bold organization, one that our members are very happy to be a part of. You know, hey, we wear the stickers and the shirts proud, but we went through a period of time that we should have never had to go through. There was things that we could have done internally and was in the process of doing things internally. Then unfortunately they got out to organizations, federal organizations, you know, blogs, the Wall Street Journal. Should have never happened. And we went through a process because our Constitution and bylaws lays it out. And I can tell you that it was embarrassing. It was humiliating. And when I have chiefs, city managers, city council members ask me about that and what's going on with the international, it didn't set well, and nor has it. And I can tell you that also, in addition, I've had emeritus officers call me and say, what is going on? Why are we going through this? Well, you know what? We didn't opt to go through it. We didn't choose to go through it. And for whatever reasons, for political gain, or call it whatever you want to call it, it's something that hiring outside attorneys that did not have the board's authority, hiring people that are basically going to Donald Trump's campaigns or political rallies. That's not what we're about. And we need to get back to unification and solidarity and take the union back. That's offensive. That's offensive to me and most all of our board members. And I don't want to speak for them, but I can tell you that we are not happy or have been happy on how this went. And we need to get past this. Whether, and really honest to God, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. At the end result, we have to get past this as an organization and get back to where we were, and not let the ones that helped us get here, let them down. So we're not getting these phone calls anymore. We can't continue down this path. And, I will say this on behalf of the organization that we're very all proud to be a part of. The level of service, and we have hours into this, hours, hundreds of hours. And quite frankly, it's over probably $1.5 million in attorneys and consultant fees on everything that we've spent, to get to this point, on all these rabbit holes that we've gone down that for the most part has been unfounded. But we need to get back to where we were. And this is a great organization. And, let's make the IAFF great again. Doesn't set well. But I can tell you that I'm excited to get there. I'm excited about this opportunity. And for whatever reason, we've got ourselves to this point, but we're almost there. We just need to get past it. And I'm starting to ramble, but I'm just been so discouraged and so upset with what this membership and this IAFF has had to go through. So again, Brother Mitchell, thanks for stepping up. Thanks for being a part of trying to take our union back, if that's what it is. But we just want to get back to some type of normalcy. And again, fortunately, you've got those relationships with this president that's coming in and this vice president. And I feel very, very good about where we're going to go under a possible leadership and potential leadership that you're going to bring to the table. So, and again, I don't want to go on record of speaking for everybody or the vice president, but I can tell you that here in the Midwest, for the most part, I can't speak for all my affiliate members, but I can tell you that this is not where I came from on what we just went down through some very, very difficult times. But I will say this about the international. I will say this about our staff and our vice presidents as a whole. The level of service and the resources that have been offered through these trying times have not dwindled or deviated in any way. You've still gotten that, and I'm very proud of that aspect or that part of things. But and I don't know who else wants to speak on this, or if anybody has any questions for me. But we've been through hell. We've been through hell, and I'm looking to get past it here real soon with this election. And thanks again for taking on this endeavor.
And thank you, District Vice President Woolbright. We're going to hop right into questions. So real quick, what we're going to point out is that we're going to be using the raised hand feature, and that is located on the bottom bar of your screen under the participants button. Please click that and we will answer the questions in the order in which they are received. We'll be unmuting participants once we call on them. If that does not work, just please ask a question in the chat. We're going to get to as many questions as we can, and we hope to get through them all. But if we do not get to your question, please email mahlon@mitchellforiaff.com, and we will get your questions answered. Also, if someone asks the question that you were going to ask and you were satisfied with the answer, please lower your hand so we can get to some more questions. Also, in regards to the chat, if I see that there is a question that's been asked already and answered, we will skip that question and move on to the other ones. If for some reason you didn't get to hear the answer in the question that was previously asked, once again, please email Mahlon@mitchell.com and we can go ahead and get your question answered. So first, we're going to start off. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm gonna actually, let's kick it to DVP of our 5th district, Tom Thornburg, please. For any
Sure.
remarks you may have.
Hey, thank you. I wanted to say that I have a lot of the same feelings that Brother Woolbright, my friend and brother Mark Woolbright, intimated when he was speaking regarding what's been going on with the IAFF over the last year or so. It truly has been disheartening, and we need a leader that is going to take us out of this situation. And I can't think of anybody better than Mahlon. Mahlon and I have worked together now for many years. Even before I was the district vice president, Mahlon and I got to know each other back in the early 2000s when he was the burn coordinator for our district. And we became fast friends. And I couldn't have been more happy when Mahlon was elected state president in Wisconsin. And he's absolutely right. That was a divided, very divided state when he took over. And I was amazed at what he has done since he's been the president of Wisconsin, and the organization that he has built there. It's been nothing less than amazing. I know for a fact that Mahlon can do the same thing with this IAFF. I know that he can lead us out of this, whatever you want to call it, that we're in right now. I don't like it, and I know that Mahlon has the abilities and he has the skills to get it done. So I am so behind Mahlon and wholeheartedly in favor of him leading this union into the next for the next 4 years and beyond. So that's really all I had to say this evening. I just hope that you guys can get behind Mahlon and help him get elected, because there's nobody better for this job other than him. So thanks, that's all I have.
Great, and thank you, DVP Thornburg. Let's hop right into questions right away. And the first one we're going to go with is from Pat. I believe it's pronounced Quain, but I apologize if I butchered that. Pat, we're going to go ahead and unmute you, and you can get your first question answered.
It's Pat Kwan. Thank you.
Kwan, got it.
No problem. And Mahlon, thank you for running. I know it's a tough thing to do and stuff like that, but being on Local 2, one of the things we learned at our executive board meeting and vetting candidates was the pension crisis in the international. And as members of Chicago, we contribute to our pensions, and even our guys that are considered detached, we pay for those pensions. Do you believe that the pension that staff members and principal officer members should continue to have a pension in the international?
Continue to have it at all, or pay into it?
Well, yeah, pay into it is one of the other issues, but we're already receiving all our members, from what I understand, are going to receive a pension from their municipality or their fire protection district. And is it right to have a pension from the international?
Yeah, I don't think that having a pension is a problem. I do believe that we should be paying, and I'm not saying we because I don't get it, but I'm saying I believe that our district vice presidents, I believe that the principal officers and top level staff should be paying a portion of salary into the pension. I think that will make it more solvent. Here in Wisconsin, we have one of the, and not bragging, but it just is what it is, one of the best pension systems in the world. I believe the 9th largest by way of dollars in the world. close to 100% fully funded, so we can fulfill all our obligations if there wasn't another dollar that came in starting today. But we also pay 6.9% into that pension. So what I believe the changes should be is that, yeah, they should have a pension. You know, we as union members, we fight for pensions every day. I mean, it's one of our top priorities, right? And one of our top legislative priorities. We fight for our members' pensions every day. And our DVPs and, you know, our I think you're just talking about the elected representatives, the DVPs, I believe. Yeah, okay. So they work hard and they put a lot of time and effort flying all around the country, depending on how big your district is. I mean, you go out, I've been out.
Myself muted so they can't hear us.
I've been out. Can we mute that, please? I think that's Michael. We can't hear you, Michael. But we work on behalf of our members all the time to have pensions every day. So, you know, our district vice president worked their ass off. I've seen it directly. So I don't think them having a pension's the problem. I think it's how we're funding the pension, and I think how the actuarials. I think we need to look at our assumptions, our liabilities, and our risks, just like any pension system. I think we need to get it right and get it fixed. I do, though, believe that every person that's in the pension system should pay a portion of their salary to make the pension system more solvent. So that's one thing that I would look at changing and working with the district vice presidents and working with the executive board to put that change in. But yes, I believe that they should have that. Did I answer your question, Pat?
Yeah, you did. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Thank you, Pat. We're going to move on to our next question, and this is from Scott Hinko.
Hey, Mahlon, how you doing?
Good, brother. How are you?
First of all, I want to preface this. I was there with you in Madison. So that I was there for 3 days. It was fun. Second thing is I come from a small local on the southeast side of Chicago. We have staffing issues, which is normal for everyone. But my question to you is this. Something that's near and dear to me is mental health, because I've been through it. And the Center for Excellence is a great thing. We have a peer support program in Illinois that's phenomenal. And how would you merge in the states, like their peer support programs, to work with the Center of Excellence? You know, so you would have that Center of Excellence is like the parent, but the guys who are on the ground in the states know the problem. So the thing is that when I call a guy from peer support that, you know, helps one of our members, I've referred probably 4 or 5 members through them. I didn't have that. I didn't have that when I went through my issues. But how do we merge the Center of Excellence if you place one in the Midwest and you place one in California, which with each state's peer support team? Because that's where it really starts. So that's one of the questions I have. The second thing is if there truly was malfeasance at the top, whatever, it can easily be fixed. But I mean, I'm getting a lot of questions from my members on that also. But the mental health issue is something that's near and dear to me. So I'd like to know what you think of that.
Okay. What local are you from, brother, in Illinois?
Calumet City, local 621.
Calumet City. My wife is from Country Club Hills.
Okay.
So
really? I had a beer with you up in Madison that day, so or one of the days I was there. So
you have a beer?
I had a beer with you, and I was very impressed. Let's just put it that way.
I don't drink, brother. I don't know who you had a beer with.
Well, somebody. I mean, maybe you had water.
Yeah, I don't drink beer. I think I probably had a double Captain and Coke, but yeah, we probably had a drink.
Whatever you were drinking, we had something. So
yeah.
I was fortunate to be able to talk with you that day.
Yeah. So to get to your question, or your first question, our mental health is very important to me. We actually, again, it's not just me, but I'm running, so I don't like to use the word I, but we started, and I helped start our peer support team at our local level. So we have, I think, I know my vice president, secretary, treasurer are on here somewhere, but we have now 7 or 8 peer support IAFF trained team folks in my local firefighters, local 311. So we've already had one in the state. And in all honesty, and before I was here, we have a membership assistance program that is called, that was started many, many years ago. Matter of fact, I believe, from what I'm told, the IAFF mirrored a lot of things that we were doing here in Wisconsin. Again, it wasn't me, but with our membership assistance program to start the peer support team. So I'll tell you, and I talked about a little bit in my long dissertation, but I will say, and I will commit to you that not only are the states needed a membership assistance program or peer support, and we have one here in Wisconsin. We have, I think, 20 to 25 of us that go around, but I will work to make sure that every local has locally trained peer support folks, because I believe that's where the rubber meets the road. Yes, the state programs are great, but it's not all the time that we can get a state program in place when help is needed right away. And just to let you know, my commitment to PTSI and basically mental health of our members. We have a bill that unfortunately, because of COVID-19, has been stalled here in Wisconsin. And right now in Wisconsin, our brothers and sisters, whenever they need any mental health or any mental health injury, and they need to go to get help, it has to be, in order for workers' comp to pay for it, it has to be what's called of a greater dimension than what a firefighter or police officer would see in their normal day-to-day jobs. Well, that burden of proof is nearly impossible for the member
Agreed.
To understand, right? Or I mean, to convey. So every mental health injury comp claim we have gets denied, everyone in the state of Wisconsin for the most part. Because how are you going to say, well, this is a greater dimension of what a firefighter, police officer would see? You know, and as we all know on the line here, we're all affected differently by what we see on a day-to-day of our jobs. And a lot of times, as we know, it's a cumulative effect of what we see over time. It may not be just one or one call. It's over time, and then you realize, oh boy, I might have an issue here. And then a lot of times, then it's too late. I had a member here, brother, and we were trying to get him to help. We have a place called Rogers here in Wisconsin, and we were trying to get him help he needed in my local. And he ended up talking with my secretary treasurer and talking with me, and he ended up, we thought we had it all worked out. He spoke with our peer support folks. He spoke with our state folks. It wasn't enough. He did not get the help that he needed, or so he thought he needed. And he dispatched himself to the Center of Excellence. And he didn't give a damn. He was like, you know what, the $60,000, whatever. I won't be alive if I don't get something or an intervention right now. So he dispatched himself to the Center of Excellence. We worked with Dean Healthcare here back at home in Wisconsin. They denied it because it was out of network expenses. My secretary treasurer, who handles most of our affiliates, called me and said, hey, we got to do something. My first call, it was $60,000 tab that he was going to be on the hook for, but he didn't care because he said him and his family, his wife didn't care. He's like, he needs the help. So my first call was to President Shapeberger. And then he said, well, call Will Newton, who's out at the IAFF, who works on those things, and talk to Miranda Jones at the Center of Excellence. And the brother didn't care. He got his own flight and he flew himself out there and checked himself in. The Center of Excellence took him in. They said, we're not going to be able to pay for it. I talked to IAFF, and over time, while he was still there, I got a call from the IAFF and President Shapeberger, and he said, hey, good news. And I thought it was going to be like a quarter of it's going to be covered, half, 3/4 even. They said, we got Dean Healthcare to pay for an entire out-of-network expense, $60,000 to cover what our brother needed. That's what this union does. And that's what's best about this IAFF. And that's the best of us. And that's the best of who we can be if we work together. So again, I'm going to make sure that we continue the efforts of getting the California Center of Excellence built in Riverside County, the Canada one built. Again, as I said, there's a motion or resolution to bring one to the Midwest. And we have to work like hell to do that. If I could have one again in every state, I would do that, but that's not feasible, obviously. But we need to make sure that our members get the help they need. And also by way of legislation, I would make sure that we get legislation passed, or keep working to get legislation passed, working on both sides of the aisle to cover PTSI, PTSD, and also every mental injury. You know, again, it's not just those things. It's alcoholism, it's depression, it's anxiety, and a whole host load of things that we all deal with in our jobs, and help to take the stigmatism off our members getting the mental health injury treatment that they need. But I believe that, you know, while most of the state associations have a program, I think we need to branch that out to locals and have some local, not buy-in, but have local trainers at every local we have within our 4,000, 4,200 locals, have one or two folks that are trained and duly trained. And IAFF already does that. We just got to expand it.
I think the big problem with that is just to close out, we have two in our local. One is no longer active, and the one that is active, he is not very well trusted, and that becomes a problem. So that's why the people reach out on their own to someone else, or they go to another firefighter that they know and speak to them. Unfortunately, in my situation, I was made to leave the job because of my brain broke, unfortunately. And like, it's hard because it was sick time for me. Back then there was no mechanism for workman's comp. Illinois does not cover that. There's nothing in state statute that allows for that. So you just bite the bullet, you take your sick time. I was off for about 4.5 months. I got better. And unfortunately for me, I'm still here, right? But there's some guys that aren't. So that's where it hits me hard. So, and I'm glad to speak about what happened to me. It's not a big deal. I'm able to do that now. I couldn't back then, but that's why it's very important to me, because when I see somebody that goes and gets the training, but our guys can't trust them, you know, in-house, then you got to start going to different avenues. And there's not a lot of therapists out there, or people that can help, because they don't really know us if they haven't worked in the job. And that's the problem that we see, at least in our area, in our little local.
You know what I found, brother, to be helpful in what we did here, at least in Madison, and I know that a lot of locals do across the country, is we actually chose 3 retired members to be peer support trainers, or peer support folks. And that one, they have more time. And we chose the people that have been there, done that, and that have, going to your point, have the trust factor from not just the folks that have been on a job for 24 years like myself, but also I can vouch for this person to a new person and say, no, this is a good person for you to talk to. Thank you for calling me as your local president, but I'm going to have Brother Bob Wallace call you tomorrow or right now. And he's a trustworthy person, and he knows what you're going through. He's seen it. He was on a job for 35 years, and he has some issues himself, and he's going to tell you how to work through it, because that's what he did. So we actually found that the retirees are actually a lot of times better at it. And again, they have the time to commit to the effort.
That's a good idea. I'll have to run that by my board and see what they say. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Let's hop on over to another question. And this was asked in the chat from Garrett Oros. When is the ethics committee report coming out?
So what he's speaking of, so everyone's aware, is there was the EDF report, which is Emergency Disputes Funds report. And then there was a staff claims committee report, which all was basically wrapped around the issues that we're talking about. But you know what I'm going to do? And I'm not trying to shuck my responsibility.
You can defer that to me.
We have 2 men on the call that are actually on the IAFF executive board, so I'm going to let them speak up because they know a lot more about it than I do.
Tom, you want to take it, or you want me to?
Oh, I can talk. I can take it.
All right.
We actually just got an email today. We're going to get a partial report from the ethics committee. The other committee that Mahlon mentioned was the claims committee that was dealing with the issue on whether General President Schaeferger, well, actually the issue was to deal with the suspension of his pension. But the report, I happened to be on that committee. It was a committee appointed by Danny Todd, who is our senior district vice president. And he appointed myself, Frank Lima, and Mike Carter from Canada to that committee as the senior vice president. And in the claims committee report, which you all have actually, in that claims committee report, we did determine that General President Schaefer wasn't in any way whatsoever at fault for anything that happened as far as it comes to him getting his pension. I would just refer you to read that report. If you want it, shoot me an email, or if you don't have it or know how to get it, shoot me an email and I'll make sure you get it. But the ethics committee has been dealing with a lot of allegations that were directed either toward General President Schaefer or toward General Secretary Treasurer Kelly. And they've been dealing with those issues for many, many months. And we got an email today saying that we're going to get a partial report. Mark, do you remember the date? I know it's coming up. I think it's in the next.
I think it's around the 18th. Yeah. Vice President Pantelis, who chairs the committee, also sent me something as a follow-up because I was inquiring that this report's probably going to go after convention for the final report. They've got it's strung out. It is the last report to be finalized. I know that some of the locals in my state, I had a meeting with my state that I live in, Missouri, a couple of days ago, and they were waiting for that report to come out. And then I haven't even been able to have a chance to tell them that we're only going to get a partial report. So I don't know if we're going to get much what maybe some are looking for before convention, if that's what some are basing their decision on.
Can you explain, Mark or Tom, what that report is and what that committee is, so everyone understands? I don't know if everyone understands exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, the ethics committee was a committee actually that was formed a few years ago. Not the actual committee, but the policy to create that committee was made several years ago. And the ethics committee is a committee, again, appointed by the senior vice president and approved by the executive board to look into any possible ethics violations that have been committed by any member of the executive board. And as you all know, there are several allegations made from the GST toward the GP and from the GP toward the GST. I believe that they're looking into all of those and possibly other allegations as well. So their report has been, they haven't been keeping the executive board necessarily abreast of any of the details in that report, and they've actually been very I don't know, secretive as far as not letting us know any hints or details of what may or be coming out on that report. So we're all looking forward to it. I know there are some locals out there that are actually waiting before they make an endorsement to hear the results of that. As Mark said, I don't know that we're going to get all the results by convention. I hope that we do, because I think they will be very revealing. So I don't know, Mark, if you had anything to add to that.
No, but I will say this, the claims committee, the committee that you sat on, Tom, you guys did great work. Again, we've been down so many rabbit holes, spending so much money with attorneys, trying to find what's factual, what's not on these accusations. And I can tell you that, you all received, and also every one of our members received a rebuttal to the claims committee that basically said that exonerated Harold for the pension that he got, that the decisions were made rightfully so, or let's just say not rightfully so. They were made legitimately, and it was on the up and up, and it wasn't Harold that made the decision. But then that committee report was undermined from out of our GST's office. You probably all got the email that basically, questioned that report. It's almost like going to a union meeting and you didn't get your you didn't get the 51% you were hoping to get, and then you leave the meeting and then you undermine it. That's not the way. That's not what unions do. That's not what we do. So I don't know what's going to come out of this report. There was a number of accusations again from the GST, as Tom said, to the GP and vice versa. So we'll have to see how that goes, and however that goes, we'd like to think that the executive board and this organization, this membership, is going to stand behind the findings of some very due diligence work and a lot of time and effort on behalf of this executive board, again, which is dictated and directed by the Constitution, our Constitution and bylaws. So hopefully, again, once that comes out, we can put that behind us and move on.
Well, and just so everyone knows, no matter what comes out in that report, I'm not going to be in it.
You're right. You're not.
There's only one candidate that's running right now for general president that will have any violations, if there's going to be, in that report, and I'm not one of them. Just as a note.
All right, well, let's hop on to a few more questions. Before we do, a couple quick plugs. Remember, folks, to look at the one-pager that we sent in the chat. If you have questions about registering for the convention, it's really important that everyone gets registered and gets out and votes for their choice for general president. The other is that we do have multiple other town halls that are coming up if you want to encourage your members or other members to join. They are broken down by district, but anyone is welcome at any of the ones we have in the future. So feel free to send over those invites to folks that you think would be interested in joining, and those are in the chat right now. Moving on to our next question, we're going to go with John Straley. John, you should be unmuted shortly.
Hi, thanks for the invite, and thank you for your time, Mahlon. My question is this: do you support term limits, not only for general president, but for also other elected positions?
You know what? It's funny you asked me that question, because, and I'm not trying to skirt around it, but I actually believe, and I always get a lot of pushback with this, but I actually believe in term limits for Congress. Because I think that would alleviate some of the people that are there as career politicians. What I support is, I believe that anyone can stay around long enough to become the enemy. And I also believe, and I had this conversation, I think, with maybe Iowa City or the state of Iowa. So just so you know, I'm going to try to be clear as I can. I believe that if you can't change anything, if you haven't done it within your first 10 years in any position, what you intend to do or intend to accomplish, then you're not really going to do anything. So my answer to you is, for the general president's position and for the general secretary treasurer position, yes, I do. For DVP's position, I would have to think about that a little bit more, in all honesty. I'm not trying to lie to you. I'm just trying to give you a flippant answer. It's just, this is where I'm at. But for the top two positions, yes. And again, I believe that if you haven't done anything in 10 years, then you're not going to do anything in your next 10 years, right? So I would look at, and I believe in term limits for those two top positions, but I just don't know what that term should be. But I mean, I guess you can kind of gather from what I'm saying that, 12 years probably. But for DVPs, it's different to me, because you're elected by your membership, you're elected by your district. And I believe that at a different scale, your membership knows if you are or not effective. At a GP or GST scale, they're right now, unfortunately, pretty far removed from those positions, if you know what I'm saying. And I look at it the same way as the President of the United States. not the same, but kind of in the same vein, that the DVP is boots on the ground. They have a wealth of knowledge, obviously. They are working their districts every day. They have the DFSRs and the field reps that they're working with. And I think it would be somewhat counterproductive to take away a DVP that is beloved by his members, that's actually doing the job of the members, just because he's termed out or because they're aged out. And that's why we also have elections every 4 years, right? That's why the power of the ballot box is real. So if someone's not doing their job, you should get rid of them. And you do that, it's easier and it's more, actually what your DVP is doing. You may not always know what your GP and GST are doing on a day-to-day basis. If that makes sense, brother. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Did you like that answer or no? If you didn't, I'm not going to change it, but I just want to know if you liked it.
Well, just, in lieu of recent events, and I mean, you even, made mention of it in your opening statements. We haven't had an opportunity to vote since 1988. So it's just a question that's been brought up by many of the members here in Local 413, and I just wanted to pass it on to you and see what your take was. Thank you.
And that's why I would agree with a term limit. Probably if I had to make a decision right now and I was on the spot, I would say no more than 12 years.
Thank you.
Every 3 terms. But for DVPs, I don't necessarily believe that, because you know what they're doing, and there's a lot more contested DVP races because of the fact of maybe a certain DVP is not doing their job. What kind of cigar were you smoking earlier? I noticed that.
That's was a Perdomo Maduro.
Oh, that's
20-year anniversary Perdomo.
Very good. I like Sinatra.
I'm sorry?
I like the Sinatra. Right.
Maybe we'll get the opportunity to share one someday.
Well, maybe so. There's a place right down the street here where I'm at. It's called Maduro. Actually, it's our cigar spot.
I'm in my garage, and I have a great selection as well.
All right. Well, you got to invite me down, brother, or up or over.
All right, well, let's hop on over to our next question. This is going to be in the chat from Alan Atkinson. Brother Mitchell, what are your thoughts on getting smaller locals more involved in the IAFF? Alan Atkinson, local 1015.
Well, 95% of our locals here in Wisconsin are 100 and under. And so, I always say, don't, a lot of people will tell you what they're going to do, right? So there's, whenever elected official comes into your office, and for me at the local level or at the state level, and they talk to our board, we always ask them, like, what have you done to get to this point? Whether you're elected official or not, but what have you actually done? Like, have you helped people in the past? And if you haven't, then they're not going to all of a sudden start helping firefighters and police officers and public safety officers, workers, when they get in that seat. They're going to do everything they've done up to get to that point. And some people just do it for elections. But I've actually helped small locals here in our state because the majority of our locals are small. I talked earlier about our state PAC, $80,000 a year we bring in. We've actually cut salaries at the top level. My salary has been cut. I did it myself. Our board voted on it, but we did it ourselves. Our board voted on actually trimming some of the fat at the top so we can give more money back to our smaller locals, or all our locals. And we gave back $1 per member per month. And then we, in turn, they assess themselves $1 per member per month because they believe in the mission. We changed our convention from annual to biennial. That gave our local 62 cents per cap per month back to every local, save them money. So the first thing we had to do is make sure our locals have the cost savings and measures that they need in place to be able to do their jobs back at home and not sending their money back to the IAFF just to try to beg for it to come back to their local. The other thing we need to do is make sure they have the education they need. Right now, and understand what the IAFF is all about. Right now, I believe, and there's 2 DVPs on that can correct me if I'm wrong, it's not their doing, but the top 100 locals by way of size, give or take, they get flown out to headquarters. And they get to see what's actually happening at headquarters. They get to see where their money's going. And they get kind of carted around. They get to sit in the boardroom, and then every agency, every department comes in and says, this is what we do by way of tech. This is what we do in governmental affairs. This is what we do in education. And they get to see where their money is being spent. And I believe that's a great program. Don't get me wrong. But I believe everyone should have that opportunity. Every local of every size should have that opportunity, including our smaller locals. And that would only help us at the IAFF level, because our members think our local officers then can go back and convey that message back to their members back at home and say, hey, I've seen it, felt it, touched it. Here's where our money's going. And here's what and this is why it's a wise investment to the IAFF. So I would make sure that every IAFF local has the opportunity, and we would budget for it. It's going to take time for every local to actually come to headquarters to see where their money is being spent and how it's being spent. It's another thing. I believe we should have, like something we've done here in Wisconsin for locals of 100 and under in size, is we have a scholarship program. Because a lot of our locals can't afford to go to alts. I mean, alts is expensive. If you talk about a hotel, which they're not staying at cheap hotels right now, but union hotels. If you talk about registration fee, if you talk about flights, you're talking about close to $2,000 just to get in the door or get there. A lot of locals can't afford that. I would make sure that we have a scholarship program that we allow locals that are smaller in size to be able to come to alts, and we would pay for their registration, their flight, and their hotel. And again, that's just reworking some of the stuff at the top and where the money's flowing. I would also make sure that when you look at the Fight Back program, which is a great program, and strategic campaigns, which is a great program, I will build upon that and make sure that gets back via the DVPs back to the locals. So where the need is great, they have the resources that they need, which happens right now. But make sure our members are aware of that program. And all that is going to flow through the DVPs back at home to their districts. So we're going to have a better communication process so that we know where the need is great. And I say all these things, brother, that ask the question. And I say these things, I know how to get it done because I've already done it. You know, a lot of people that come in office and that will ask for your endorsement and your support, they'll promise you everything and say, yeah, I'll start helping locals of all different sizes once I get in that seat. Well, we should call bullshit on that sometimes. You know, it's like my son ran for a school president when he was in 8th grade. And he came back home one day and told me, my wife, he's like, hey, Johnny said he's going to promise, you know, better lunches. So he's going to have pizza every day and longer recesses. He goes, so I'm going to promise, my son Carson said, I'm going to promise Subway sandwiches and pizza. I said, well, can you provide that? He's like, well, no. I said, why the hell would you promise that then? I said, and by the way, if little Johnny wins, you guys are going to have the same shitty lunch and the same amount of time at recess that you had before. I said, so me and your mom will bring pizza, Little Caesars, because it was 5 for $5, it was cheap, but we'll bring some pizza to your school. And you will do that for maybe 2 or 3 days, but I'm not going to promise things you can't deliver on. And I'm not going to promise you things I can't deliver on. But these are things that I've actually already done, things that we've actually put in place here in Wisconsin. But again, we did it as a team, and we'll do the same thing at the IAFF. I have a kitchen cabinet meeting every Tuesday at 6:30. You want to be part of that, you let me know. Now, you got to kind of endorse me first, but if you endorse me, you want to be part of that kitchen cabinet meeting, you let me know. And you will see, we talk about things like this, and we talk about what are we hearing out there in the street, what do we need to change in IAFF, and how we can move this forward. And we just had a meeting on Monday. Our first town hall, as you heard, brother, was catered, and it was for our locals of 100 and under in size. So another thing I will do is make sure the meetings I just had on Monday, every quarter I will have a meeting of locals that are 100 and under in size every quarter, just like this. One, I guess, okay thing that came out of COVID-19 is that we now all know how to work remotely. So I will make sure that we do this. And DFSR and field rep services via the DVP will be more. I'd like to double the amount of DFSRs and field reps if we can afford it. We'll figure that out at the time, but I push that back out so that our locals will have more services as well.
Great. Our next question is from Adam Farrell, and he is in the raise hand feature. If we can unmute him.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, Brother Mitchell, for your time. I know it's a late night. I really appreciate it. I'm from Local 412, Dearborn, Vice President, and our new hires right now currently don't have retiree health care. And this is kind of a regional thing in our area, and I'm sure we're not the only ones dealing with this. But what is your vision for the IAFF and healthcare? And do you think that we have the ability to not only provide it in retirement, but could we provide it or provide options during active duty?
I do, and I talked about that a little bit at the outset, and that is that we can work to build basically a trust, right? And I would work with actually the police association, because we all know that healthcare, when you have more folks that are in the pool, the cheaper and at least more affordable it gets. So I would help work that I would put in place that we explore to have a trust that all current and retired members can be a part of. We were actually, again, judgment on what I've tried to do or have done, as opposed to what I'm just telling you what I will do for you. We were actually in the process, my Secretary Treasurer, Steve Wilding, and I, here in Wisconsin, we were actually in the process of going out to Washington State to look at what they've done with their trust, as well as there was a convention in Las Vegas that talked about how we start our own trust for police and fire. And we were going out there with the WPPA, which is our state police association here in Wisconsin, to look at doing that exact thing. But unfortunately, Scott Walker came with a bill 6 months later called Act 32 that prohibited us from bargaining over copays and deductibles. Otherwise, we would probably by now have something similar set up to that. But there's a lot of different variables there, right? Some places are self-insured. Some you got to obviously have some stop loss gaps in there. So it's a very complex system to be able to do that. But the IAFF is complex in nature anyway, and we have the resource at the IAFF and a lot of smart people on the board and a lot of smart people and staff that can explore that. So as I said in my earlier remarks, yes, we will do that. I believe that we will get it done. When it comes to retiree health insurance, it's another caveat. There's a bill right now from Sherrod Brown in Ohio, the senator, that allows us to buy into Medicare at 55 years of age if you do not have any access to healthcare. And that will actually help the Medicare system, because you're having more younger people be involved in Medicare at a younger age. And we're buying into it. It's not free. So it actually enhanced the Medicare system. And as we all know, 75% of us do not have any Social Security benefit. So we need to make sure that we have not just retirement security by way of our pensions, but health insurance security. Because the number one question, and if you go on my website again, I did a quick 30-second or 45-second video about the early buy-in to Medicare, as well as the number one question that's asked here and asked across the country is how the heck are we going to pay for health insurance? With the premiums being a COBRA amount at $1,700 a month if it's a family, and half of that if it's a single. So yes, I will work on that. And unfortunately here in Wisconsin, it's going the other way. They're actually bargaining out or unilaterally just taking away retiree health plans and retiree health insurance for all our new hires. So this is something that we got to work on like right away, right now.
Thank you. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Great. We're going to move into our next question. This is from Lance. Lance, I do not want to butcher your last name, but he is the VP of Local 3075. Mahlon, I know you have consolidated some locals into Madison. Can you expand how and why you did this? Should this be done more throughout the IAFF?
What we've done is we've absorbed municipalities and towns and villages into Madison. We haven't necessarily consolidated locals. What we've done is, like, we have 13 affiliates. I think we have 12 now, but we just got 2 more on, so I sometimes forget the number. But so like the town of Madison, which is literally in a little small municipality or town in the city of Madison. The town of Blooming Grove, which is on the east side of Madison, which is literally in Madison. They all had their own separate fire departments. Well, as budget constraints kept going, they couldn't afford it. So they actually came to the city of Madison, not to us. They came to the city of Madison to look at contracting services. Fortunately, we represented a number of members at each of those towns. So what they couldn't do, though, is go in and just unilaterally lay off the members that were part of Local 311. So that's when we come into play and we actually get the bargain them absorbing our members. And what we've done successfully is we've actually brought every member of our local in those towns and in those affiliates actually into the city of Madison. We've been able to give most of them an accelerated academy. We've been able to take them, actually most of them are either making the same money they were making, and as well as, or making more because we put them at step 5 as a firefighter. They're all, if they have a paramedic license, they can go right into being a paramedic literally after they get out of their 3 or 4 week academy, a lot of them. So we are able to actually change their work week as well without any loss in compensation. So every one of our members that has come from any of the towns that we absorb, my team and I, we actually, that's when we bargain with the city and our administration on what that looks like. Do I believe that everyone should do it? I mean, it all depends where you live and how that works. We're not the ones as a union, as a local, going out to try to absorb cities. That's the city of Madison has done that. Some of those cities that we've absorbed are going to be annexed anyway. Like for town of Madison, it's going to be annexed in 2022. But anyway, I'm going too far in the weeds. But it's not us going out to do that. It's our city doing that, and then we are at the table to make sure our members are made whole. So it's really, if you're going to do it, it's based upon each individual's needs and where you're at regionally.
Great. We're going to hop into the next question. This is with Matt Bergesser. Can we please get Matt unmuted?
Hi, Mahlon. Thank you for your time. Matt Bergesser, Maslin Fire, Local 251 in Ohio. If Mike Taylor's still on, he can speak to this a little bit, but we've discussed in Northeast Ohio, we're used to tough contract negotiations. We're used to fighting tooth and nail for any and everything we can get. And you mentioned bringing collective bargaining to the south of the country. I think that's step 1, but then step 2 is we have to teach those locals or instruct or help those locals on bargaining successfully. Just having the ability to bargain is not good enough. They have to be able to bargain successfully. So one of the things we talked about in Ohio is kind of having like a strike team or something, if you will, where locals that have been successful or are used to bargaining in tough negotiations go to help other locals that maybe aren't as experienced. Do you have a vision for what that might look like, or if something similar could be used in the South if and when we achieve bargaining for the locals that don't currently have it?
Yeah, and that's a great question, and you're exactly right. Just having the ability to collectively bargain doesn't mean you're good at it, and that's actually why here in our local, at least, we sometimes get some pushback from our Madison proper members about having so many affiliates, but we're actually able to, I hate to use the word control, but we're able to control what's happening with cities that are contiguous to Madison. Because if there's a contract that's really bad in an area, it's going to affect everything that's around Madison. So I totally agree with you. And I think we already have strike teams set up. They're the DFSRs. They're the field reps that are answer to our DVPs. I think we can enhance that. And that's why I said earlier, I would like to actually double the amount of field reps and DFSRs that we have in our 2 great countries that we serve. And I think those are the strike teams that actually have the know-how already, have the capacity and ability to be able to go in and bargain good contracts. So yes, I would just enhance the DFSR and the field rep program. And those will be and they already are really, if you think about our strike teams that are already out there and they're in place. So we don't need to reinvent the wheel, so to speak. I like what you're saying, but I would just, again, do exactly what you're saying, but I would do that through the DVPs and the DFSR process.
Gotcha. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for getting on.
Great. And let's hop over to our next question. This is from Matt Whitford of Local 1443.
Hi, Mahlon. Appreciate your time being here. And a lot of what you said today really resonates with me. It was kind of funny that you told the story about your kid running for 8th grade class president, because it leads right into my question. You mentioned a lot of programs that you'd like to bring down all the way to the local level, especially like the peer support, and put a center of excellence in every state if you could, but that's not fiscally responsible. But the programs that you have mentioned, how do you plan on financing those? How do you plan on providing those peer supports to the locals at every level and adding the center of excellence to the many different locations?
Well, the center of excellence are already in the works, and the funding's going to be there. I think it's Cal Fire that's procured the land actually in California. So it's working in partnerships with our locals. It's working in partnerships with our state associations and provincial associations to get it done. How we're going to pay for it, we're not going to raise per capita. What we're going to do is actually do a comprehensive audit of our finances. Right now, there's $75 million by way of a budget at the IAFF. $54 million of that is per cap. So there's still a $20 million or so sweet spot, if you will, that we have money coming in. And I know some is by grants and financial corporate, some other things that backfill the budget. But how we're going to do it is we're going to just reprioritize what we're doing at the top levels. And there's money there, but I'm not going to raise per cap. And I didn't say that was your question, but we're not going to raise per cap on the backs of our members, because we would essentially, if we did that, we'd be doing the same thing that our brothers our elected officials do. When they have a problem, they blame it on us and they say, well, we got to take your salary, or we got to have wage parity, they like to call it, and we can't give you a raise. So I would do it by working with the district vice president, working with our executive board, and we would do it just like we did here in Wisconsin. Now, we did, in full transparency, we did have a per cap increase, but that was our first, and that was, man, since 2011. We just did that in 2020. We did that 8-9 years later. What we did was we trimmed some fat at the top and live within our means, just like we have to do in our own personal lives. I mean, we don't look at our budgets and go to Cozumel and then come back and say, well, now how are we going to pay for our rent and pay for our mortgage? We have to live within our means. And I think the IAFF, we should do the same thing. So that's what we would do. I would look at, trimming some fat at the top. I know there's money that's coming in from the IAFF Financial Corps that we can use to help benefit our members. There's a lot of grants out there that the IAFF currently already gets, but there's a lot of grants that we can seize upon to help pay for our members. But I think federal funding is the way to go when it comes to actually center of excellence. And again, I know it's already been done, but center of excellence when it comes to our members' mental and physical health, I believe federal funding is the way to go. And thank God, in my opinion, that we have someone like Joe Biden, who I don't think would not do that for us if we have the right plan and the right programs put in place.
We're gonna hop over to a question from President Buchanan, submitted via email. How will you work with the new administration, and what are realistic goals that you would set at the federal level?
Well, I think I hit on that a little bit, but realistic goals I would set on would be the priorities that I stated, and that's collective bargaining. That's making sure our cancer presumptions are strong. There's places like in North Carolina, they have no presumptions at all. That's a place where it's actually illegal to even sit down and talk with your employer about hours, wages, or working conditions. I would make sure that we have those protections in place. I would work for the health care and the health insurance that we could, I think, again, federal funding is going to be key. We need to hold our Democrats and Republicans accountable to our needs. I mean, we are on the front lines, and we hear that all the time. We need to make sure that, again, they're not just shucking and jiving and giving us a handshake and then walking away and voting against us. We need to make sure, and we need to hold them accountable. If they're not doing a job that we need to get them the hell out of there, whether a Democrat or Republican. So the way I will work with the new administration is, the good thing is I have a relationship already built with both of them. But here in Wisconsin, we always have divided government anyway. We have a governor who beat me. But we have a governor who actually is a Democrat, but our Senate and our Assembly are straight Republican, and a lot of them are very, very conservative. But we still have to get things done, and even with a hostile work environment. For instance, one quick story. When Scott Walker came with Act 10, which was the collective bargaining change, we had rallies and marches that you all saw. But we would go and we do our rallies. We would walk to the office. I would change into my suit and go back and actually talk with Governor Walker's chief of staff and Governor Walker at times to get our third service, our standalone paramedic systems exempt as well, because by state statute, they're not considered public safety. Governor Walker did that for us, even though I'm outside yelling on a megaphone and a microphone in front of the Capitol. And we're still able to get that legislation passed, or that small change done for our standalone paramedics. So I would do the same thing I've done here in Wisconsin, that is reach across both sides of the aisle and do what's right for our members and advance the interests of firefighters and paramedics through legislation at the congressional level.
Great. So it looks like we're running a tad bit low on questions, folks. If you do have a question, make sure to get your hand raised so that we can get to it before the end of the program here. Another question from the chat from Ryan Heim. Brother Mitchell, you've touched on changes or rebuilding programs. Going forward, what's a program or two you'd like to implement that the IAFF currently doesn't have? Thanks for your time. Kansas City Local 64 Vice President.
I'd like to revamp and look at where we have our alts. I think we should move those around more. I know we have them on the West Coast and down south a lot in Florida. I like to bring more of our programs, more of our education. We tried to get the Redmond Symposium in Milwaukee years ago. I know convention, that's all done by way of vote, but I like to get more of our education done here in the Midwest. Now, I know a lot of folks don't want to come to Wisconsin in January. I know the Ledge Conference obviously has to be in DC because that's where federal government is. But I like to see us get more events at cheaper hotels, union hotels. I think that's important, but cheaper hotels, and bring some more actually events to the Midwest. I would also like to see enhance the strategic campaigns program. I've seen it work firsthand. We've had 2 ballot measures that we just got passed this last election cycle. It's phenomenal. Got more firefighters, paramedics at smaller locals. I'd like to enhance your strategic campaigns, take that a step further. I think the Fight Back program is great. I'd like to enhance that as well and put more money and more staffing into the Fight Back program. But one thing, like I said, I'm kind of repeating myself because we talked about it, but healthcare insurance, I think that's a huge deal. And that's a program I believe that we need to put in place. It will be one of my top priorities, and making sure that our members have affordable healthcare that they can buy into, that's administered, working with our healthcare partners across the country, and having an IAFF healthcare plan that we can all buy into for active duty and retirees.
Great. All right. Well, I think that was our last question. Folks, if there are, yeah, I think if there's some that I'm missing, please raise your hand or throw it in the chat right now. Before we get to that though, folks, we just like to make a final pitch. If you like what you heard this evening, please talk to your members, please talk to other locals in your state or in your region. We'll be sending a follow-up email that has a recap of all of the things that we discussed on this call today. It will include the one-pager as well as the upcoming events. If you want other folks to find out about the campaign, please forward it to your members or other locals in the area, and make sure that you continue to spread the word about the campaign. I'm not seeing any more questions here. Speak now or forever hold your peace until our next one. One here. Mahlon, do you want to talk a little bit more about your path to victory?
Yeah, good question. Thank you. I should talk about that earlier. I've been endorsed by as far as east as Washington, D.C., as far as west as a lot of locals in California. I'm getting my phone blown up right now from a very big local in California. Hopefully I get that endorsement, but endorsed by LA City, LA County, Sacramento, San Francisco, Hawaii, pretty much all of California, all of New Mexico, the state association, every local that comes with it. All of Utah, every local except for one, but all the bigger ones, and that's by way of numbers, as well as many locals, or all the locals in Arizona as well, except for one, but the state association as well. Those that you've heard from tonight, obviously my district is backing me, otherwise I wouldn't be running. Some of the folks that are in our district. I just got a call from Ontario province today. I've just been endorsed by Ontario, and majority of locals that will be coming along with that. And there's a big local in Ontario that you all know. They actually beat us in basketball in the Milwaukee Bucks in the playoffs a couple years back. I have their support. So right now, there's normally about 305,000 votes that are out there in the IAFF, and that's a number that is basically the full voting strength around. But right now, there's about 160,000 votes that are still left that have not been accounted for by way of endorsements. So Brother Kelly will say that he has 100-some thousand votes, but he's adding, I believe, some numbers that are a little bit funny, but whatever. So we are down, but we're not down by much. And we have, we'll be close to 70-some thousand range by the time we get done with this week when all the endorsements come out. So there are still, again, and with those numbers which we have, that still leaves 60,000 votes that are out there. So this is going to be close. And this is going to come down to many, many locals that normally do not go to convention. A lot of locals that can't afford it, but now you can go virtually. And as Taylor said earlier, you can go for $100 per delegate. A lot of our smaller locals have just one delegate based upon size. So $100, you don't even have to go to convention. You register before the convention, you sign up, you have your dues paid by up to November 30th. You sign up, and you're going to get a ballot mailed to your house, whether you attend convention for 1 day or I think it's going to be 3 days. It doesn't matter if you attend or not virtually. You'll get a ballot. So the smaller locals are going to matter. So I always get the question, I get it on Monday. Well, the IAFF doesn't care about smaller locals or they don't hear us. Well, make them hear you. This is a way to make the smaller locals are going to have a huge effect in this race. So if you're saying they don't hear you and you don't vote, then well, I don't understand that because everyone can vote. It's $100. I mean, I know we even have some firefighters in our country making minimum wage, and that's bullshit. But we can all come together with $100 for one delegate to go. So every voice needs to be heard. We all, as local officers, tell our members to go out and vote, and we don't necessarily always tell them who to vote for, but at least vote. So we have to do the same thing. We need to make sure, and I know you're all on the call, so you're all engaged. But talk to the locals that are in your area that are just saying, you know what, they don't care about me. Well, why would they care about you if you don't vote? If they don't see your name on a ballot. So again, all locals are going to matter, and they always should. They all matter in my state, and I make sure that happens. But all locals will matter. So make sure all locals go out and vote. Path to victory is very clear. It's going to come down to locals of all different sizes. I've been called by many, many locals that want to remain nameless for a lot of reasons, and you can probably understand them, but that have come out early and endorsed Brother Kelly. And again, I'm not running an anti-Ed Kelly campaign, but they have come out and endorsed Ed Kelly. And they have called me and said, hey, we didn't know anybody else was going to be in this race. We're reassessing what we did. I've done a lot of interviews with people that have endorsed Ed Kelly. And some have said, hey, we're not going to change our endorsement, but you have our support. And some have said, hey, we'd love to talk to you. I'm going to Philadelphia, believe Local 22 on December 16th. They endorsed Ed Kelly and endorsed Donald Trump. I'm going right there and talk with them. They invited me out to talk with them about the path and the future of the IAFF. So this is far from over. Right now, this is a sprint, but we're at about halftime right now, and the game is not over. So I'm fighting like hell to make sure that our IAFF is representative of all our members. And a lot of times, Wisconsin is flyover country, right? A lot of times, a lot of us on this call is flyover country. But we got to make our voices heard. And you have my guarantee if I'm your general president. I put my cell number in the chat room. I'll do it again. Any of you, feel free to call me at any time. My cell number has not changed in 25 years, 26 years. And if you don't know, I'm a big, unfortunately, I'm a Bears fan. And I'm a Chicago sports fan. So that number is 2333. That's Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. That's how far my number goes back. And that's back in the day when you could pick your own cell number. A lot of you young fellas have no idea what I'm talking about. But there was a time you could pick your own damn cell number. Now you can't. But that is my cell number. So any of you on the call, you take that number. If I'm your general president, you can call me anytime and text me anytime. And I'll give you that guarantee. That number is not going to change. So that's how we'll take care of small locals. That's how we'll take care of locals of all sizes, quite frankly. And that's how we'll come together.
Great, Mahlon. Before we wrap up, I want to draw your attention to Dylan DeLea's comment in the chat here. Early this morning, Local 3369 lost a 27-year veteran of our great local to COVID-19. This was not expected, this was not expected and was a huge hit to every one of our members. Lieutenant Jeff Guernsey was his name, and he was one of the best leaders we had. The fact that the IAFF fought to keep COVID-19 listed as a LODD and stayed ahead to make this so is now going to be a huge help to his family and beyond. Mr. Mitchell, keep us going where we need to go. Local 3369 appreciates your work to lead this great union.
I will, brother, and I'm sorry for your loss. I did hear about that this morning, we are making a phone call out to you, but I'm sorry for your loss, brother. And the IAFF is also making and working hard and our district vice presidents are on the line to make sure that our members are tier 1A and that we get the vaccines we need before in conjunction with other healthcare workers that are essential. But the IAFF, if you saw this morning, came out strong to make sure we get what we need to do our jobs and be safe. And the PSOB benefit for COVID-19, the way that was done so swiftly and quickly, that's what this IAFF's about. And that's what this union's about. And that's what I would continue. And enhance the things we're doing well and get rid of all the BS and some of the bullshit that's not going so well. And this infighting is not going to help us. So again, I'm asking you to join me, and this by way of closing. I'm asking you to join me in my quest to become our general president. Please tell our other brothers and sisters that you know that are out there that are on the fence or that are thinking like the IAFF doesn't listen to their needs or that they just don't care. Make them care. You give them my number, or you call me and text me and say, hey, I think you should call this brother or this sister at local whatever, and I will do it. So thank you all for your time. Thank you for your efforts. We're going to have many more of these. You're welcome to come on again and ask me any question you want. You have my cell number. There's a clear path to victory for this, and stay safe out there and stay strong. And we'll get this done together. See you all.
Thank you.